If you don't live behind the moon, then you probably heard of Five Nights at Freddy's. The first part was released back in 2014 and is now one of the most popular horror games. With now 6 main games, several spin-off, fan games and even its own movie, it has by far the biggest community of all horror games. The gameplay of the first part is extremely simple, but what would it be like if you could play as one of the enemies? If you lived under a rock for the past 10 years, let me quickly explain the game to you. The concept is actually quite simple. You sit as a night guard in the office of a pizzeria and watch the entire place through your cameras. The 4 so-called animatronics, Chica, Bonnie, Freddy and Foxy, are trying to get into your office and unalive you. To defend yourself, just close the doors on your left and right, but be cautious because they drain the battery, and if you don't have any power left, like every project, we start with a new Unity project and create a bean. And with the magic of the internet, we can now move our player. Now we need some 3D models to make it actually look like FNAF. FNAF? FNAF? FNAF. And this was actually the point where the whole project could already end, because for the love of God, I can't 3D model. So I totally rely on assets from the internet, and well, if there are no assets, there is no game. But to my surprise, there are actually hundreds of free 3D models about FNAF. The animatronics, the night guards, even the entire map. Shout out to all the artists who made these models. To be honest, this is my first 3D game. I made a bunch of 2D games, but never actually a proper 3D game. So I had a lot of problems with 3D specific stuff like importing models, texturing, 3D lighting or shaders. Why does it look so weird? Okay, what the heck is this? No! And I spent a lot of time to import everything and make it look right. I watched a lot of tutorials to make it finally look like this. And there were still a lot of problems at this state, as you will see later in this video. After that, I started programming the security cameras, and this is probably a good time to explain what I want this game to be like. You will play as the most popular animatronic and also mascot of the game, Freddy Fazbear. Since in the original game, Freddy can't move when you look at him in the cameras, whenever a camera is looking at you in my game, you aren't allowed to move or your position will be reset to your starting position. Basically like red light, green light, now that I think about it. You're trying to get to the office to force the doors down and to drain the battery. Once there is no power left, you can enter the office and win the game. If you can't do it by the end of night 5, you lose. The other animatronics work exactly the same as in the original game. Every 5 seconds they choose a random number between 1 and 20, and if the number is higher than their current AI level, which I can set however I like, because it's my game, then they are allowed to move to a new position. This was extremely easy to implement because the logic isn't too complicated, because it is as simple as generating a random number and comparing it to the current AI level. Moving the animatronics was surprisingly easy too. We use Unity's FNAF mesh agents to do that. We basically generate a so-called FNAF mesh on our map where we specify where our eye can walk and where not. This took some tweaking to get the values right, but I eventually got a pretty good working AI. I recently learned a lot about game architecture and therefore also tried to structure the game as good as possible, especially by using events, where one of the game objects fires off an event if something happens, for example if the player dies, and other objects like the UI subscribe to that event to get notified. Just like when you subscribe to my channel and turn on the notifications. This drastically reduces the dependency between objects, but enough of that nerd stuff. One important thing we are currently missing is animations. And one easy way to create animations for your 3D models is Mixamo. Not sponsored by the way. Simply upload your model and choose an animation you want to play. Whoa, hey, Bunny, stop it! Import everything into your game and just like that you have animations. Sadly, this doesn't work with every file format and 3D model, so I needed to find new models that I could animate in Mixamo because some of the old ones weren't working. I also made some UI to display the current night and hour. Don't be confused by the way, the night count starts at 3 because this is when Freddy gets active in the original game. And this was also the time I randomly found out about FNAF Simulator, almost the exact same game I'm making. Anyways, I also created my own version of the FNAF main menu. You see what I did there? Then I added the original sounds to my game, and this also makes it way easier to tell if you are monitored by a camera, because a sound is played whenever you are. Before that, it was pretty likely to get caught by a camera you couldn't even see at the moment, which was really frustrating. When playing the game, I noticed that the game has one fatal flaw. Once you get to the office, you can just wait there till the power is out. So I implemented a malfunction feature where if you stand in front of the office for too long, Freddy will malfunction and run to a random spot. And this makes the gameplay a lot more interesting. I also spend a lot of time fixing errors, and I know in these videos it always seems like me or also other developers can code perfectly and everything goes as planned, but that is really not the case. I encountered a lot of problems and bugs during development, but it is important to not give up and push through those errors and fix them. And even though I worked on this game for over a month, it's still more like a demo with a lot of bugs and flaws than an actual game. Game development just takes time. Anyways, you can still download Five Nights as Freddy on itch.io for free, link in description. And if somehow I get to 5,000 subscribers through the video, I might develop this game further and even make this into a multiplayer game where one can play as the security guard and the others play as the animatronics or something like that. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and if you want to see how I made a horror game in 2D in only 2 days, you can click this video on the screen right now.